Here with Joel from Nomadic Closer. They do killer stuff in the sales world, training closers, helping businesses with sales placement. They do it in English and in Spanish all over the world.
That's right.
And it's a pleasure to have Joel on the show today. This is podcast number 1, first ever episode of the series. We're talking about business, crossroads where problems meet solutions. We'll be covering the journey, scaling businesses, how we're also developing sales leaders, and how we're actually placing them into businesses to accelerate sales results. So with that said, Joel, why don't you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about what you actually do, and we'll go from there.
Let's do it. Guys, my name's Joel Elster, and as you can tell from the strange accent, I am from the UK, not Australia. I get so many people asking me, are you Australian? No, drives me mad. Especially when we deal with a lot of the American clients, everyone thinks I'm Australian.
It's a good accent, though.
Thank you. I like to think so. So what do I do? So Nomadic Closer is all about what? Being a nomad and being a closer. So it originally started as me being a closer, traveling. I thought, you know what? This is great. Like, I remember a point where I was locked in my bedroom. I was just rolling out of bed. I was closing calls. I was rolling back into bed. And I was depressed. I wasn't happy. And I thought I wanted more from my life. And I just felt so trapped. So it wasn't until I had a spiritual awakening, so to speak, I got out of my comfort zone and I started traveling. And I found it so easy to travel as a nomad. And as a closer, I thought, if I can do it, are there other people that were in my situation, depressed, locked in their room, making money, but not happy? So that's when I created Nomadic Closer, where we divide it into 3 main parts. One is placement agency. So we help businesses find closers and setters. The other one, we have a sales academy. The sales academy is in English and Spanish, and it's not just sales. It's about personal development first, becoming a better human before a better closer. And the last thing is a done-for-you service. Now, what is that? Very simple. There's a lot of CEOs that are great at running businesses, but terrible at sales. So what we do, we go in and we actually help those type of businesses by taking over their sales teams or building a sales team for them.
That's a lot of stuff, and I want to go focus in on one thing at a time. So let's go a little deeper on how you guys are training and developing closers. What was the pivotal moment in your experience as a closer that you feel like made the greatest difference in becoming a top leader as a sales rep?
It's a really good question. I think what a lot of closers do, because there's so much content out there, there's so many different types of sales coaches, everyone just goes from one coach to the other, and then they just they can't figure out what their unique style is. Right. So, and I was one of them. I think I probably went through every single sales coach out there. And I think there's a lot of great sales coaches and a lot of shit sales coaches.
Right.
But then my biggest lesson was, why am I mixing a load of things up? Why something's working? Why something's not working? And I realized that I kept trying to become that coach. I kept trying to sound like that coach, act like that coach, but that's not me.
Right.
You know, and one of my mentors, because I was actually having this conversation with my mentor, I'm like, I'm going through all these great sales coaching programs, but it's not working as well as I wanted it to work. And then she started asking me all these questions. And then I told her that I'm doing everything that they're telling me. I'm acting their way. My hands moving the same way, my face expressions. And they're like, well, there's the issue. What do you mean? And she said, you're not ever going to be the best version of someone else. So like, what do you mean? So, because you're never going to be like that, coach. You're only going to be second best. So how can you be first best? Is by being the first best of yourself.
Right.
So now everything that you've learned, try and figure out your unique style. You've got what works. Now try and convert it into what works for you. So then I went down this personal development road of actually truly understanding who I am, my mission, vision, value, purpose. So then once I understand who I was, sales came easy.
I love that. Yeah, and I'd like to expand on that and what sets you apart in just a sec, but I think it's super important because like I too went through that same journey, you know, training Cole Gordon, Jeremy Minor, Eli Wild, and all these top guys. And I think these are great frameworks if you have zero training to start off of. But once you understand sales is just about communication and understanding how humans make decisions and really ethically guiding them to the decision that best serves them, you can have your own style on sales. And that's what I would like to uncover. Like, what have you found sets you apart from all the people in the industry? And why do you feel like the way that you're going about sales and training sales reps gives you an edge in the space?
Very simple. Charity. Okay, now what do I mean by charity? Every closer you ever speak to, they're like, I love getting on calls because I like transforming people's lives. I like helping people. And my question to them is, great, but how often do you actually do charity work? And they're like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, how often have you actually gone to a village, built a house, volunteered, donated money face to face, given out food? How many times have you actually helped people that you don't know? They're like, well, not too much.
Right.
Maybe I've given some money to a charity, but I've never physically been there and handed out food. I said, start with that. Why? Because once you go to charity, once you start being in service to others, really being in service to others, everything changes.
Right.
Your heart really fills with so much love, and I'm just getting goosebumps.
Yeah, look at that.
Your heart fills up with so much love, and you truly care about helping strangers.
Right.
So now when you do get onto sales calls, it's crazy. When you do get onto sales calls, all of a sudden you truly care about helping that person.
Right.
And a lot of people, they think they know their problem, but they don't.
Right.
So by actually understanding the right questions to ask, once you do find out their real pain and their real problem, because your heart's so open and you have so much love, you're not going to let that person go until you actually get them to realize a different perspective, a different point of view on what needs to happen for them to change their lives.
Right.
So I think that is a big, big shift that's happened with me and a lot of my students.
That's huge, because I think a lot of sales reps, they get into closing because they see a lot of this revenue potential. And then as a young teenage person, you want all these materials you could never have. And this, for a lot of people, is the fastest way to, acquire a skill set and make a lot of money, which is cool. But I think where you really excel is when you understand sales is a leadership position, right? And it's your duty to be of service in that position, because when you understand, like, you have an obligation to guide people to the best decision for themselves in this job, and you have to embody that leadership role, right? And so when we train sales guys for our clients as well, we let them know, like, you guys should be grateful that you have this opportunity to wake up, and you guys should embrace that as well. Like, I get goosebumps too when I think about it, because you're not just selling an offer, you're leading someone to a life-changing transformation. And if that doesn't get you excited every day, and you're not ethical about it, you don't belong in the industry, or you're just not going to do well.
And I think a lot of times you speak to clients, everyone has a script. Everyone tries to follow a script. But sometimes they don't realize that every client thinks differently. Every prospect thinks differently. Every lead is different, because some people have great imagination. Some people don't have great imagination. So for those who don't have great imagination, you need to be there to guide them as the authority, not as a friend. I think this is where a lot of people get confused.
Right.
You can't be a friend on the phone call. You have to be that authority figure.
Right.
Because once you're truly helping them visualize their future outcome, not the journey, but the future outcome, you help them build that vision board together that they couldn't build by themselves. That's when they have their, oh, wow, I can achieve that.
Right.
Then they start to picture it.
Right.
So I think it's helping them really guide them through to what their future looks like. Yeah.
And now, to date, how many guys have you trained in the community? How big is that?
Just over 2,400.
Cool. And so I'd like to walk the audience through what happens. You train them. Where do you guys go from there with these guys? Like, what's the opportunities do you guys help them with?
I love that question. Multiple. So we have a placement agency, so we do help them get onto jobs. I'm very against any sales coach that says, I can guarantee you a placement if you come train with us. It's impossible. Right. I can give you the best training possible, but if you're not going to implement it, if you're not going to show up, I can't guarantee you're going to get placed. Yeah. A lot of people already on offers, they come to us just to increase their skills and to, I guess, get higher closing rates by working less hours. That's very common. We have, again, the placement agency, and we have our own offers as well. The other thing we teach them as well, and this is something really interesting, is a lot of them are now great at communicating. They can get on Zoom, they can have a great conversation, but they're really bad at socializing and
Right.
networking face to face.
Right.
Like, okay, don't get me wrong, they've got this beautiful community of like closers online, but that's not a real community. Real community is when you actually like us.
Right.
You know, we're going to these meetups, we're going to these networking events, and like we have real human interaction, and it's great. I'm getting to
Right.
know you. So what we also train as well is get them to get out of their comfort zone, go to network meetings, break the ice, and have real human interaction conversations. Because when you do that, now that you're a good closer, you're a good communicator, all of a sudden you can start talking to people, and it's give as gain, right? It's like, oh, actually, this business owner, he has a problem. Maybe I can introduce him to this, or maybe I can suggest this.
Right.
And you give, and all of a sudden, business owners are like, well, actually, what do you do? Oh, I'm a closer. Oh, I'm looking for a closer. Bam.
Right.
I'm looking for someone to consult. Bam.
Right.
So they're actually now making more money outside of just closing, where they're now going to network meetings and making money through.
That's how you accelerate if you also ever want to get out of just being a closer for the rest of your life.
There you go.
And I imagine that's what inspired the Nomadic Closer House.
Oh, yes.
So
Absolutely.
let's share with them a little bit about the vision behind why you put that together and what the goal is behind that whole project.
Amazing. So going back to the original story is once upon a time, I actually lost my business during COVID. I was $126,000 in debt, managed to clear 26,000. Anyway, all of a sudden I had to move into my parents' house, and I've started to make money, but then all of a sudden I'm like, hang on a minute, I've cleared my debt. I'm now making money, 10, 20, 30, 40 grand. There was a point where I made 42 grand, and I'm still living at my parents' house. Didn't really know how to socialize. And I thought, fuck, what do I do? You know, COVID affected a lot of people as well. They didn't know how to go out and socialize. So all of a sudden, I started going traveling. I started having experiences, and I thought, what is missing in this world that I wish existed when I first started as a closer? So all of a sudden, I had this realization where it's like, why don't I actually build an experience? 30-day experience where you have 6 to 7 men into a house, Nomadic Closer House, and give them a whole experience. Get them outside of their comfort zone, outside of their bedroom. Help them with personal development, understanding who they are. Because a lot of people don't understand their mission, vision, value, purpose, their why. Right? So let's help them with that. Let's help them find their true, authentic self. Let's help them get out and network and socialize, meet people face to face. So it's a 30-day experience where, yes, they're going to be working hard as hell, making calls, making deals. But then you've got the weekends where we've got crazy activities. We've got masterminds during the week as well, cool breakdowns. I mean, think about it. Every day after finishing your sales calls, you're sitting around the table with a good bunch of lads, and everyone's doing cool breakdowns. Everyone's trying to help each other. I mean, the connection there is just unbelievable. And again,
Right.
I wish I had that back.
Right. No, the time that these guys, the opportunity right there is like something we've never had. I mean, I remember being in my parents' bedroom as well, and when I lost my first business, it was the same deal. Like, parents' bedroom, my brother's basement, and I'm just there taking calls, and I'm like, when does this end? Or how do I network and meet people? And so I think that's truly incredible what you're doing. And man, I wish there was something like that existed for us. So appreciate you doing that. For the business owners listening, I'd rather shift focus now to more of like scaling sales teams and what you guys have found to be some of the most important things when it comes to like managing high performers, keeping them around, incentivizing them to grow, and actually getting them to produce the most juice out of the lemon. Because a lot of business owners who aren't sales guys or sales leaders fail in that area. And so maybe just start by just sharing, like, how have you guys managed to get sales teams to perform at such a high level inside of companies?
Culture. First of all, it's culture. But before talking about culture, let's talk about two things. First of all, the business owner doesn't truly know how to run a sales team. They maybe know how to run a business or grow a business, but truly motivated and growing a sales team, to this day, I haven't seen one that's managed to do it. The other thing business owners do as well is maybe they have a closer that knows the business. They're like, I'm going to promote that closer to become a manager.
Right, bad move.
There's a big difference between being a closer and a manager. Huge difference.
Right.
So what we found is all the managers that we have, they come from either being in the army or being in a rugby team,
Wow.
playing professional rugby. Why? Because they all know and understand about brotherhood,
Right.
about what it means to keep a team together, to motivate a team, to grow a team, to understand people's individual weaknesses and strengths, and really don't breathe on top of people, but kind of be in a situation where you're planting the seed rather than telling them what they're doing wrong, right? You're planting the seeds, you're giving them certain advice, and they come back to you. They're like, oh, by the way, I managed to figure this out. Oh, where did that come from?
Interesting.
You know, so again, it's about building the right culture. So everyone is wanting to jump on these meetings and wanting to share value and want to help each other. But at the same time, when you need to go in and do extra training, you know exactly what type of training you need to do per individual, because what motivates you is maybe different to what motivates me. Right? Maybe you're motivated more by money. I'm maybe more motivated by someone giving me a tap on the back and saying,
Right.
great job.
Yeah, that's huge. Culture is always number one. And so what would you say you've seen in your time in the industry most business owners go wrong that results to their sales team crumbling and then coming to you guys for help?
First of all, is not knowing how to recruit the right people. Because if a business owner is in the industry, they're like, I'm just going to do a little Facebook post. I'm going to start interviewing a load of closers. Do they know what a good closer is? Do they know what kind of questions to ask, how to do a role play, what kind of scripts they do, what kind of sales training they have? Are they a team player? They're not a team player. So I think rule number one and first number thing where businesses go wrong is they try and do their own recruitment. Big error. The other thing what they try and do, they try and find a good sales manager. Now, if you don't know how to build culture, that sales manager is not going to go. There's not going to be any loyalty. All of a sudden, you've got a sales manager meant to build a team. That sales manager goes, where's the team left?
Right.
So that's the reason why we have a done-for-you sales agency where we have everything in place. We've already built the culture. We've already got the sales team. We've got the managers. And it's just about plug and play.
Yeah. And I'm curious then, I mean, maybe share with the audience through that experience, like what has been some of the most powerful things or coolest things that you guys have built with companies where you guys come in, turn things around. Maybe share a story from one of the biggest turnarounds that you've seen.
Sure. I mean, the specific clients that we normally work with is between clients that make them between 200K to 350K. I want to scale past $1 million plus. Before jumping into that, I think it's really
That's per month, right?
That's per month.
Right.
Yeah, per month. But one of the biggest issues that we had at the beginning is we scaled businesses too fast. Their fulfillment didn't work and it broke.
Yeah.
So now what we do, we audit companies first. So like, okay, before we jump in, before we start working with these companies, we really want to figure out, okay, what does their chain of sale looks like? Let's analyze where it's potentially breaking, what needs to happen to fix all these points, and then what's the fulfillment like? Is there a maximum capacity on fulfillment? Because if we know there's a maximum capacity and it can only grow so much, we know how to work on it.
Right.
Right? But again, rule number one is if your fulfillment's there, that's rule number one. Rule number two is what do your marketing look like?
Yeah.
You know, what happens if you're only advertising on Facebook and that's your only lead source? Where are you going to get more leads? So helping them develop that. And then obviously we have the sales.
That's great. And I'd like to then break down, like, when it works well, how does that relationship flow where the people handling delivery ops are communicating with you guys, marketing's communicating with you? Like, I'd like to get an understanding of what's required to make it go well. And on the other hand, maybe share some experiences of where, like, the business owners you've worked with have prevented you guys from doing your thing well. And that way the business owners who are listening can understand, like, if I want to work with a done-for-you sales agency, here's the ducks I need to have in a row. And if I don't, like, here's experiences where if I'm like this type of business owner, it's just not going to go well.
Yeah.
So let's start with the positive side first. Like, what's been important between the different departments to set you guys up to come in and crush?
If anyone's ever worked in a restaurant, and if you've been a waiter, it's kind of like waiters versus chefs. Normally they fucking hate each other. Right? And there's always conflicts. The first thing that we try to understand the businesses is who runs the actual marketing and do we get along with the marketing? Because sales and marketing, they can't be against each other like the chefs and the waiters. We need to be able to work together. Now, the reason why it's so important is because marketing may think something works, but at the end of the day, we need to have the right kind of tonality and communication all the way through the ads to the funnel and the conversation that the closers have as well. So if that conversation, if that relationship is great, that is a huge, huge plus. The other thing as well is business owners need to understand that sometimes we have to give you the advice. Sometimes you're not going to like it, but sometimes you're going to have to listen, because it's all about testing. What was working yesterday or a month or 2 months ago may not be working now. And this is one of the issues we had with one of our clients. They did between $7.2 million to $7 million a month. And then they passed the business over to us. They were still running the same ads, but then all of a sudden the ads had two issues. One, it had a load of fake leads come through. So the marketing agency that they had, or the media buyer, didn't know how to disqualify or clean up the fake leads. And the other one, the ads were so old that even though in one of the videos it was mentioning, oh, these are the best results that you can get in 2021, and it's 2023 at the time.
Wow.
It's like, you need to change the video. Oh, but it's been working. Why would we change it?
Right.
Well, first of all, because it's saying the wrong information. And two, that type of marketing isn't working in today's market.
Right.
Like, consumers' buying habits change all the time. So you've got to keep on testing. So what I'd say is always be testing. A/B test absolutely everything. If something's working, keep that running and keep testing one thing at a time. Don't try and test too many things at a time, because you may not know what worked. Have one thing, if it's working, run it and keep testing other things. It could be different creatives, it could be different head titles, copy. So keep on testing multiple different things.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because obviously we partner with companies as well, and we focus more on the marketing side, but we end up getting involved in sales. And it seems like there's a common theme here, which is collaboration between the departments is really important for success. Some of the best clients we've had is built on extreme trust, where they hire you as the expert. If you recommend something, they implement it, and it allows you to grow. It seems like when it hasn't worked, there's pushback. You obviously have the benefit of having tons of data, working with different accounts.
Yeah.
And I think we've faced similar issues in a different industry, where it's like you recommend something and they don't do it, and then they end up blaming you. And this creates this infamous war of like sales blames marketing, marketing blames sales. But the reality is, like, you guys got to understand, it's one process. It's taking a customer from not knowing who you are to building a relationship, which is now more important than ever, is really building a relationship with your brand before ever talking to someone about purchasing, and then having really good sales reps that guide people through the process, versus back in the day when high ticket info products were just coming out. I'm sure you could agree, like, you could sell anything to anyone. If they had a pulse and a credit card, we would sell them stuff. And those days are just over. People are way more sophisticated than that. And I think that's really important. So
That's true. And I think especially like with the clients that we're working with at the moment, we're taking a lot of clients between the 200 to 350K mark to $1 million plus. It's working extremely well because we have our own media buyer now.
right.
So if we seem like we can't get along with that media buyer, we'll be like, okay, well, let's go head to head. You keep using your media buyer, we'll use our media buyer, and let's see who works better. And
Interesting.
90% of the time, it's our media buyer.
That's
Because of the communication.
And it builds a great culture. It sounds like let's just create competition, friendly competition.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And there's nothing wrong with just letting the data really give the answer straight and clear. Well, Joel, it's been a pleasure having you on this episode. If people are between that 200 to 300K a month mark and looking to scale their business, what's a good way to just connect with you?
Cool, good. We'll leave something in the description. Well, guys, it's Nomadic Closer, so you can go onto our website, nomadiccloser.com. Instagram is Nomadic Closer, or you can reach out to me personally. It's at Joel Elster on Instagram as well.
Perfect. Well, brother, it's been a pleasure having you. I'm sure we'll see you around.
I appreciate you.
Keep crushing it in the sales world.
Let's go.
Keep developing leaders, helping business owners scale, and really appreciate all the hard work you do.
Thank you very much, brother.
Thank you guys for being on the show.
Thank you, guys.